Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and I've got a reel today that we're going to work on. I've been asked to show how to replace the line guide mechanism on a KASTKING Recon fishing reel. And well, we're going to take you through the step-by-step process to do that. I recently acquired this reel. I have a line counter that we will use to replace. We'll show you how it's done and well, how to keep this reel tuned and how to service this reel as well. We're going to go through the whole step-by-step process to that, but the primary purpose here is to show you how to replace that line counter. Well, this is a nice reel. It's a larger level line reel. It's intended for saltwater or for deep lake or trolling. So, of course, the Great Lakes and other lakes like that, you can use that. You can also use it catfishing. It's got a lot of nice features to it. It's got 3 ball bearings plus an anti-reverse clutch. We're going to find out where those are, and we'll show you how to take this reel apart and how to service it and keep it fishing for a long time to come. Well, if you like those types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That's going to let you know when I'm posting the videos, and well, you can make a determination as to whether that's a video that you would like to watch. Today, it's the latest in the product line from KASTKING. It's as I mentioned, it's a Recon. And it's a nice reel overall. It's got a 5.3 to 1 gear ratio, 3+1 ball bearings. It's a 20 size reel. It holds an awful lot of line. It holds 420 yards of 20-pound test and 330 yards of 25-pound test. It can also be used with braid. So all of those things kind of add up to a winner. And well, let's see what's going on inside. So I've removed the hold fast that takes the holds the handle nut from spinning off. Once I break those nuts, I generally like to just remove them by turning them by hand. That way I get a feel for the reel, if you will. Then we have our handle just simply slides off. Interesting to note, this handle is a leveraged handle. So you'll get it in this condition, but you can move it out, which is going to make it even more leveraged from the fishing perspective. Well, it's a new reel. How do I know what the heck is going on and how to deal with that? There's a schematic inside the reel. And this is the part we're going to work on first. We're going to show you how to do that in terms of the reassembly of this. But right now I'm over here removing the internal parts of the star adjustment system. I always recommend that you take pictures as you go and work on your reels. That way, those pictures are going to help you out if you get stuck along the way in terms of well, what came next or what came off where and the like. I've just removed the mechanism, but I think it's probably going to be easier just to take the star adjuster to back that nut off. That's the real workhorse behind tightening down the drag is this nut right here. It's going to compress the drag washers, and that's going to help you to modulate the tension on that. All right, so coming from the top up, notice that you have a groove on that side of the nut. The other side is flat. That groove is going to accommodate that spring. And when I take my pieces and parts off, well, I put them right into a parts tray. That way I don't lose them. All right, we've taken off the bottom. We might be able to get the next series of washers out. There's 3 tension washers. These tension washers are not flat. They have a little belly in them. And, well, you want to make sure that you leave it that way. There's actually a 4th. There's one more sitting in here. We'll show you how to reinstall them later, but you want to make sure that you have the 4. And then that's one of our ball bearings. It's sitting in the case. You're going to need a Torx screw for this next one. At least I think it's a Torx screw. Size 10. I have a little palm grip here, and I have a multi-bit set. That helps me to remove the screws. And the palm driver happens to be a snap-on palm driver, but you can get all kinds of different ones online. The bit sets make it nice because you don't have to go out and buy all kinds of hand tools. You can just simply use the driver and whatever bit is needed. I like this one because you can turn the shaft. You don't have to turn the whole handle or the whole tool once you get it going. Well, there's 4 screws that are holding this on. I've taken them out because I want to make sure that all of those screws are the same size, and they are. And once I find that out, I want to put those into a parts tray. That will help me to locate them when it's time to reinstall. This should come off now. It does. And again, the first issue here is how do I replace the line counter? Well, there's 2 more screws here. They're small screws. I'm going to go from my micro driver set here to grab those screws. They have a relatively small thread on them, so let's see if we can get it with this one first. That's a little bit too big. Trial and error. I guess as I do more of these, I'll figure it out better. You always want to match the slot in the screw with the right screwdriver. If you undersize that blade, you run a risk here of butterflying the groove in that screw. You butterfly the groove in the screw, it may not come out the next time. Okay, there's 2 screws that are holding this on. That's the first. This is the second. And this is a new rule, so we'll just, new reel, so we'll just play along as though this is one that had to be replaced. I guess there's been a question about how to do it, so that's what we're doing here. Okay, I'm doing the same thing here that I did with the other screws. I'm putting them on my table because I want to make sure that they're both the same size. You'd be surprised how many times they're not. Those 2 are the same size. And now we should be able to remove this outer cap. This is your assembly. And then this is the replacement assembly. This is a good place to take a picture. Because again, if you found yourself in a situation where you just start pulling pieces and parts, there's a good chance that the piece will not be reinstalled properly, and it's easy enough to note. Okay, so a couple of reference points then, right? The red dot or the red push down button needs to be opposite the numbers here, and well, kind of fits in a square. This should simply pull out just like that. We're going to take our replacement. Again, line that up. There's a groove. You're going to see it here. There's a slot on this side and a slot on that side. When you look at the base of the line counter, these are your 2 grooves, and they need to line up and go through that little piece there. That's how you'll know you got it correct. So that's reinstalling the new one. Let's do that again just to make sure everybody saw that. We're going to pull this out. We have our carrier now. We have our 2 slots on each side. We have the little inserts on both sides here, the slats for the slots, I guess. You want to line those up, press that in until you're at bottomed out, if you will. It can't go any further in the case. That's how that piece gets done. I guess the factory put a little bit of grease onto the cog on the bottom, so let's go ahead and put a little grease onto the cog on the bottom. Now use fishing reel grease here. Don't use something that's not intended for fishing reels. There's plenty of fishing reel greases on the market. They're all very good. Just make sure that you use a fishing reel grease. Okay. Next up then, we want to align our carrier. This is where we were with that. We want to bring that over. There's 2 stud holes here. That's what's going to line up. Everything goes in just like that. Make sure when you do this that all of the seams are nice and tight before you put a screw in. If you're having trouble, if it hasn't set properly, the last thing you want to do is start tightening down something with a screwdriver when maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe something is not set. And if I was to guess what might not be set in that situation, it would be that you did not have this properly mounted in the carrier. So please, when you go do that, make sure that you are nice and tight and flush. Okay, we're going to go on to the service of the reel, but for those of you that were just watching for how this gets redone, we'll just do one more piece here. I'm going to complete this. I switched over to a different micro driver, but the thought is the same. Okay, so we have our lubricated up line counter. That's going to intersect with this gear here. This gear is going to count off. Now remember what we said. We said that this is not stationary during casting, which means as the spool turns, the line guide's got to turn. This does not turn the line guide. Back here, underneath here, you will see the idler gear. That's this one, the big one. That's driven from the back side of the spool. That's what drives the line guide. Well, when that line guide is turning, it's moving the cog on this side. That's going to interface with the wheel here, probably coming in like this, and that's what's going to turn the numbers on your line counter. So that's the set there. Okay, let's just let's do a little bit more here. Now this is again is a new reel, but we're going to show you how it's made, how it comes apart, and the rest of the service as well. You've got 3 ball bearings. It appears that there is a ball bearing in the back here. It's kind of hard for me to see. Let's go to the schematic and see if that is a ball bearing. Part number 59 is a bushing. Okay, so that's not the ball bearing. So we have 2 ball bearings on the right-hand side, and then I would suspect that the other one, 7. I would suspect that the other one is in the handle. Okay, that's a bushing. All you need is grease in a bushing. This one's got plenty of grease on it from the factory. Let's go set that in. We've got a bearing here now. And again, I like to oil the bearings. Again, this is from the factory, so we just kind of not go crazy here. Oil the bearing, and then we can put that aside. This is the workhorse now. This is the gear side plate. And on the gear side plate, we have a couple of things going on. We have 4 screws that are mounting the bridge, and we have a E-clip holding the main gear assembly on. Well, let's get going on that. I'm going to remove the 4 screws. I'm going to remove that E-clip. Again, I'm doing the same thing here that I did earlier. I want to put the 4 screws down. Before I do that though, I'm going to remove this E-clip that's holding on the main gear assembly here. That way I don't pull off the, I don't know if I will pull off, but we're going to try to avoid pulling off the AR assembly the way it is. That's your E-clip. Again, another good place to take a picture. And now I got one more of these. And this backing should come off now. A lot of manufacturers have gone to the internal mounting of that bridge to keep the salt water and corrosion off of it. Here's a bearing here. And we should be able to just pull this whole assembly up. This is your backing plate with the bearing. Now we have our yoke springs. This is our eccentric that's going to enable the reel to come up and down. I take these off. I'm going to put those into my tray as well. And again, this is a little new, so well, never quite sure. That part is going to go on here, I'm sure of that. Now we have our anti-reverse dog. We can lift that off. Now notice here where that spring is, just in case. And we had a stud just fell out of there. That dog is mounted onto a stud which sits in the case right there. Now we should be able to push our main gear assembly through, and we'll just take a look at what's under here. Again, the whole idea here is to show you the servicing of the reel, given that this is new. This is your +1. This is your anti-reverse. I'm going to remove the main gear here. Okay, we have main gear that looks like it has the Carbon-Tex washers in it. Okay, let's take a look at the exploded view then. We have the main gear. We have 3 identical washers. We have a thin round keyed washer. We have a eared washer with the 2 points on it. And then we have the thick washer, which is going to belong up top. These are Carbon-Tex washers, so they don't need to be lubricated. They don't come from the factory lubricated. And the setup on this one is pretty straightforward. Now first, if you've taken these 2 pieces off, this is your anti-reverse dog ratchet. And it's held in by a C-clip right here, if you need to remove that for some reason. On the back of your main gear, you also have a washer. So we're going to load that in. It's going to be the back washer, main gear, then we're going for the thin keyed washer, second drag washer, eared washer, which has the 2 points and they sit inside the case just like that. Last of the drag washers, thicker drag washer for the kit. Okay, and then the next thing in on that would be the main gear. On the back side of this, we have the assembly that will be the ratchet assembly for your click. That has a series of 2 pieces. It has a pointed ratchet, there's an internal spring, and then there's the back ride on that. And I'm just trying to make sure that I got this right. It's going to come in this way. And that's how it sits on your main gear. Okay. Next up, what I would do is insert your main gear into your assembly. I think we can probably put a little bit of grease on here, even though it's a new reel. It looks like it's fairly dry. I get that question every now and then. What should I do with the reels when they first come out of the factory? Well, sometimes they sit in storage for a while. Sometimes it's very hot where they're shipping from, and those things tend to dry out the grease. So one of the things you can do is to degrease. Okay, bring that in. Oh. Let's set that down. We can bring the anti-reverse dog over. The post again. I've just had that laying in the side here. But again, if you've taken it off, no problem. Just note where your orientation is. Okay, set it over the post. Make sure that it sits in that notch. With that done, next up would be the yoke and spring assembly. The springs are going to go onto the post here after the yoke. I just want to take a moment here because we were flying this one blind. Okay. The slot in your yoke faces inwards on the spool here. You can lay that down for a moment. Again, let's put a little bit of grease on here. This goes right into and onto the posts. Our two springs go on, like that. And then we should be able to bring this whole assembly in so that we can merge the main gear and your yoke assemblies all together. And again, just like the other one, you want to make sure that there are no gaps in that. Okay, next up what I want to do is I just want to turn this, make sure everything's turning fine and that I have an anti-reverse. I do. I'm going to take our four long screws now, and I'm going to alternate these as I put these in. I'm going to start with, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm going to start with one on the upper right side, then go opposite. Come down low on the other. This keeps equal tension or torsion, if you will, on the bridge plate so that it doesn't slip or bind. All right, bring that through. Bring this side through. Now we want to bring our bearing in. Once you've installed the bearing, go ahead and take the E-clip and hold that whole assembly in place. And sometimes you may need an assist. Sometimes these E-clips are a little bit stronger than you are. I just use a pliers and pull it in that way. There we go. Alright, and you can give it a test. Make sure that it's running the way it should. We had these two little washers come off the bearing. Let's go put those back on. Those are bearing shields. Now make sure that the click clicks. Now, we can put these right on right now. As I mentioned, these have bellies. And the traditional way I install is belly up, belly down, repeat. So you have four of them. Belly up, belly down, belly up, belly down. Those are tensioning washers. They're going to help you with the sensitivity of your star adjuster. Once you do that, we can bring our star adjuster knob in, or the nut. It's going to ride on there. Like I said, this is the one that does all the work. This has one of those star adjusters where you need to press down in order to engage that. And that's so that you don't accidentally kick the adjustment on your drag washer during a fight. Okay, well, I'm just using my hand to spin that on, as you can see. Or maybe you can't see, maybe my hand is blocking it. Bring that down as far as you can bring that down. All right, before I put the rest of that assembly on, I want to go back and just install the case back on the reel. Just merge your axle shaft with your case. Make sure again that you have a nice tight seam all the way around. If it's bulging, if something doesn't feel right, doesn't look right, don't force anything. Stop, bring it back out. And I got to reset the throw on this. And again, just like I did with the bridge, I want to alternate where I put the screws. So go kind of northeast, southwest on this one is 4. So let's call that east and call this west. Again, this reel is relatively easier to assemble once you get a few of these under your belt. I'm sure you can do them pretty easily, but of course we almost lost that one. The only tool that's required is a Torx screwdriver. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. It's the only tool. Your nut cap needs a wrench. Seems a lot of mechanical tools these days are going to Torx. Last one. Make sure they're all nice and tight. Okay. Well, there's not much left here. We have the screw, which is going to sit in the recess of that adjuster nut. Again, remember, there's two sides to it. One side's flat, one side has that inset. Make sure your inset is facing out when you do this. This is a press-on now. You want to press on and push in so that you can locate the grooves on the nut like that. And you kind of hold all tension. Trying to clear my fingers from the actual terminus for the handle. You have the two choices now. You have the inner one, which is how it's shipped from the factory, and you have the outer one, which is going to give you more leverage. Tighten it down by hand again. When you've tightened by hand, now make sure that you tighten your drag washer down, or star adjuster down, before you tighten the nut. If you don't do that, when you're going to run the risk of trapping the adjuster, then you won't have a drag adjustment. If you find a point on the nut pointing right to the hole in the handle, most of the time these caps will line up. So sometimes you can call it lucky, or sometimes it's just, well, that's kind of the way they're designed. All right, let's tighten this one down. The good news is I no longer have any parts in my parts tray. They're all on the reel. We're going to assume they're on the reel in the right sequence. Let's give it a turn. Well, we're right back where we started. A nice, easy turning reel. Reel counter is working. That's what we had started this whole thing with, right? Was making sure that we could reinstall that line counter. Free spool turns nice and easy. Free spool retrieve, knocks back. And I recommend that as you service these reels that you back off your star adjuster after every use. That way you won't be pressing down on your drags, and while removing that tension from the drags is going to extend the life of it, as opposed to keeping it cranked down like a vise where it compresses that all the time. Well, that's how you do it. That's the replacement of your line counter mechanism, and that's also how you service this reel. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, thank you to all who have been watching, and please leave your comments in the section below. I noticed that I just had that screw was only partially tightened. We'll finish that off. Okay. Please use your comments in the stars below, and if you're considering a reel, this might be one that you want to consider. A nice deep sea reel, perfect for jigging with a high speed retrieve. That's good for bringing in lures at a fast rate when those predator fish are chasing fast fish, and overall a nice lightweight reel where your hands aren't going to be tired by the end of the day. Well, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I want to thank all of you for watching. Have a great day.